Step, something in my jeans. FOI, you know that's the team, huh?
Peace. This is your brother Aidan X, and welcome to the processing class.
Foot of the teachings that I can remember was my father. You know, growing up once my mother and father separated, growing up in my father's household, every morning I would wake up, and every evening before I would go to sleep, he would force me or instruct me more so to read the Supreme Wisdom. And he would always tell me, he said, son, this is very vital and very important to your life. You may not understand it now, but you'll understand it later. So memorizing things such as the actual facts to student enrollment was, you know, these pieces of the teachings of the Nation of Islam were some of the very first pieces of the teachings that I ever received. And, you know, not just pieces of the teaching that I ever received, but pieces of literature that I ever conceptualized within my young growing mind. And so, you know, from my father, that was some of the first times that I can remember the teachings. But as we all know, in life, we have to go through our own journey, you know, of finding our way through the teachings to making that commitment to the lifestyle of being a Muslim under the guidance and instruction of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad through the leadership of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrad. So growing up through Muhammad University of Islam, you know, I thank Allah for my mother, Sister Marjorie, or otherwise known as Sister Malana, for working tirelessly on behalf of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan in different projects, and seeing that. And in all honesty, watching my mother work on, you know, certain projects such as Justice Soros, a few different other things, I saw how tirelessly she worked. And I said, in all honesty, I don't want to work that hard. I don't want to hold posts. I don't want to, you know, work as much as she does, because I see how much time it takes. You know, that was my young mind, not even processing everything around it, but I just saw, you know, the mission taking away from me what it felt like my mother. And so growing up, you know, I always told my mom I wouldn't get registered into the Nation. She said, once you're 16, you'll have the opportunity. I said, I'm cool. I'm not trying to hold posts. I'm not trying to be standing on the wall. I'm not trying to be on the street selling the bean power or final call. That's just not my desire. Until after my 8th grade graduation from Muhammad University of Islam in Chicago, Illinois, I asked my mother once we sat down, and she said, what would you like to do for high school? This was one of the first times my mother's ever given me an open choice when it comes to my education. And I said, for the first time, I want to go and experience what the world has to offer. So I left from Muhammad University of Islam to enter into the world of public education that this world is set up. And I attended Urban Prep Charter Academy in Chicago, Illinois, which is one of the most astute public charter schools in the state of Illinois. However, it's still nonetheless of the world. And so, you know, my first experience there, they was making fun of how I talked, how proper I talked. And, you know, I was like, man, am I wrong for talking how I speak, or speaking, you know, in the way or manner in which I speak? Because now I'm exposed to people walking around saying, hey, folk, what you got going later, G? But to me, I couldn't even process it. I'm having totally different types of conversation with a nearly different dialect, so I couldn't understand it. But doing 4 years in that public school education system turned me not inside out, but turned me backwards from the teachings. I no longer had the desire to go to the mosque. I no longer had the desire to go to the final call building to listen to the study groups on Wednesdays that the youth would host. I no longer had the desire to go to Saturday, go to the mosque on Saturday while my mother was in MGT class, or even go to processing class. I didn't have the desire because I wanted to then focus on the world of sport and play that the public system put on me. And so from there, I fell away from the teachings, quote unquote. And especially once I got to college, my freshman year of college, which was 2017, 2018, I got heavily involved into drinking, the street life, gang banging, even though I'm all the way in Mississippi now at this time. scamming, and many other things. But what turned me back towards the teachings was me, my mother not permitting me to return back to school after getting poor grades due to me falling off from my dean. I returned home, got kicked out of the house, had to go live with an individual who I affectionately call my uncle, which many may know as Brother Elijah Farrad on Instagram. I went to go live with him for a time period, and he helped me get my sanity back on a very base level. And he'll wake me up every morning for prayer and force me to get up. I'll be knocked out, go to sleep at 4 a.m. after I just getting done playing a video game. He wake me up right there at 5 a.m. Man, nephew, come on, get up. It's time for 5. Oh, man, let me get a few more moments of sleep. No, sir. He pours out, because I didn't have my prayer rug at the time. He poured out a towel and laid it on the floor. He said, use this as your prayer rug and let's pray. And forced me to pray every day at 5 a.m. that I lived with him. So now he's building up and reestablishing my deen and my discipline to be a better and stronger Muslim than I ever was, in building my faith through prayer. And, after that, there are many more things that happened, but Allah blessed me to return back to my own and accept my own and be myself.